Welcome back to the Morning Blend. 24 years ago, Julie Tarney's 2-year-old son, Harry, told her, "Inside my head, I'm a girl." Every child expert Julie talked to said it's just a phase. He'll grow out of it, and they encouraged her to wait it out. Then Julie came to a realization that Harry was happiest when he dressed up in girls' clothing.
Yeah, and Julie admits she was fearful of stereotypes, people judging her family, and bullies. But she wanted to make her son happy and for him to be his authentic self. So Julie's here today to talk about her new memoir. It's called My Son Wears Heels, One Mom's Journey from Clueless to Kickass. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Love the title.
What an important conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure, you find now with writing a book and this topic being so almost mainstream that it's much easier to approach. But in your time, in 1992, when your son said this to you, there was no internet, there were no terms of transgender or non-conforming. Kind of go back to that time and what that meant for you in that moment when your son said that to you.
It was very confusing for me. I had no idea what it meant. As you said, there were very few resources. There were no books, there was no internet, there was no community. And I had a lot of questions, and I just wasn't sure where to go with them. So that's the clueless part. And I wish that there had been the language that there is today, that gender nonconforming had been a term that was used, or sometimes gender creative, or gender fluid, or transgender. I would have been much happier, and I wish that I could have said to Harry, "You're gender nonconforming." And that's who you are, and
that's okay.
And that's okay. And there are a lot of kids like you. You may not know any right now, but there are a lot of kids like you.
So go back to when he's a child. And it was so nice of you to share these photos with us, and there's some great shots too in your book as well. So he dresses up for Halloween. I know he loves Halloween. You make that point in the book. He loves to dress up. He has been in theater, and you're thinking, I'm worried. What will people think if I let him wear a skirt? Or if I have too close a bond to him, will I make him too feminine? Those were all concerns that you had, right?
They were, because at that time, if your child didn't fit into a box that was either pink or blue, the gender binary as it's called, it meant that the parents were doing something to that child.
Something wrong.
Something wrong, and it was typically blame the mother, that the mother was somehow going to derail a boy's masculinity, or that, as you said, she was too close to him, or that she was domineering or controlling. And I worried about that because I was kind of controlling.
A lot of, hey,
I mean, my
a lot of us moms are like that. I
You
get
got to
that.
keep the house in order.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But that's a big blame game, that's going on, and there's so much guilt, I'm sure, that can be brought from that, is it my fault? But even experts told you wait it out. At 2, it was too early to even have these kinds of thoughts or go along with it. They told you to wait until when?
Well, I didn't really talk to anyone. I just had my Dr. Spock book, child care, baby and child care. And from Dr. Spock's perspective, kids' identity, gender identity, is something that develops. But the expectation is that it would develop into being either a boy or a girl. And it was just wait and see. Wait until he or she is 5 or 6 years old. Well, Harry was 2. And I thought, I have to wait 3 or 4 years? What about right now? What do I do now?
Did you kind of instinctively have a sense that you needed to respect or honor what he said he was feeling on the inside?
I did, because my goal as a parent was for my kid to be happy and to develop self-confidence and self-esteem. And so I was always asking myself, is what I'm about to say or do, how is my child going to feel when I say that? And I had to dig really deep a couple of times on how to respond. For example, when he was 2, he asked me how I knew he was a boy. And that was a question that just came out of nowhere for me, and I wasn't sure how to answer, so I gave him an anatomy lesson.
Right. That's
you know,
right, yeah.
this is what the doctor said. And he just looked like he understood because he'd been running through the sprinkler with his friends in the neighborhood, and so he knew there were differences. But he looked really puzzled, and I said, decided to probe a little bit, and I said, Harry, that's such an interesting question. What made you think of it? And just matter-of-factly, he just said, well, inside my head, I'm a girl.
It's fascinating.
A little later, his cousin asked him, too, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said?
He said, a girl. And it was just with confidence, and that's just what I want to be. And of course, he believed, because his dad and I were very strongly told him that he could grow up to be whatever he wanted. So of course he thought, well, if I want to be a girl, I could be a girl.
Is he transgender, as the term implies? Does he want to be? Does he have a girl's name? Do you use the pronoun she when you refer to your son Harry now? Because in this interview, you've been saying Harry and your son. Some transgender people choose to assign themselves a female or a male name opposite of how they're born, I guess, anatomically. Your thoughts on that?
Well, transgender is really an umbrella term. It's a spectrum of which gender nonconforming or non-binary, which is a term that Harry uses now to describe himself. And I say him because he doesn't care what pronoun is used. He says, Mom, other people's pronoun use has no bearing on how I feel about myself whatsoever. So transgender is really an umbrella term. But I think it's more recently been come to be understood as someone who was born or assigned male at birth, but who feels like they're in the wrong body, which isn't really, you know, a great way of explaining transgender, but they were assigned one gender at birth, but they feel inside that they are a different gender. For Harry, Harry feels neither male or female. So this idea of the gender binary, boy, girl, male, female, pink or blue, he really feels neither, and that he's just on the spectrum, and he likes some things that are considered feminine or some things that are considered masculine or traits. That list you brought up at the beginning was a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Right.
How about dating? Does he date, and does he have a preference for male or female?
Harry dates men or other boys, or I mean, this is a question that comes up frequently, and I think it's a good place to explain the difference between gender identity and sexual orientation. Because they're similar, they're parallel, but they're really not the same. Gender identity refers to how you feel about yourself, how you feel inside, who you know yourself to be. And sexual orientation is who you're attracted to. Diane Ehrensaft, who wrote the foreword to my book, explains it that sexual orientation is who you go to bed with, and gender identity is who you go to bed as.
That's fascinating.
That's a
great
one?
quote.
And I love the way you've honored your son, and even some of the things like wearing girls' clothes. And I love just really quickly how you say, looking back over my life as a parent, I felt like I've made more right choices as Harry's mom than wrong ones, yet I've made some mistakes. He's reminded me of, while helping me pack your personal life, of the things that you've done to sort of honor his authentic self. And I just think it's wonderful. So thank you for sharing it with us.
Here's the website,
you.
mysonwearsheels.com, where you can get a copy of the book. I know people are approaching you to potentially make it a movie, and I think it's fascinating you wrote it, and really a tribute to him.
Thank you so much.
Great to meet you. Thank
Same
you so
here.
much.